Hey everybody, this is David Red. New album, Love Is Everything, and It Will Not Save You is out now. We're here to talk about it. That's as over the top as I get.
Okay. That's chill. Claire's had her effect on you.
Yeah, yeah. In what way?
She was like, "You're screaming. We're
Yeah,
not ready
yeah,
for you to
yeah,
scream."
yeah. Stop screaming,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Actually, it's funny. I remember before I moved to France saying to myself, I really want to be someone that has a better batting average when they speak. I speak too much. I want to be somebody who listens more. I want to be somebody who speaks less but says more.
Yeah.
And then I moved to France where I didn't fucking speak the language, and I wound up in a whole bunch of conversations where I'm like just barely tracking what's going on, and like had one instant to say something. Careful what you wish for. But it definitely had an impact on me. I'm still kind of like figuring out the pendulum swing back and forth.
Yeah, I think this has changed about you.
Yeah. Cool. Glad that's validated. You're listening to David Red and Rob Zaleski. We are chit-chatting about the new album and getting into the details of what it means to make an album, why that's important these days, and what an artist feels about releasing an album in an age of singles and TikTok.
I want to introduce this from my perspective of I learned that you're musical in college when you were playing guitar covers of John Mayer songs for me at Beaufort, North Carolina at the Marine Lab. And I remember really wanting to make an impact on you of like, I hope that you do this. I hope that you keep this alive and don't just like go into a corporate world, like using your degree for, I was like, man, you have something really special here that you really moved me and Lauren that night under the stars. That I was like, I want you to keep doing this. And so we drifted apart for some years, and I would just look from afar of like, oh shit, it looks like he's actually doing this. And then so now to be here 13 years later, interviewing you about an album that you wrote and like have pursued. You did the thing that I wanted you to do.
Cool. Thank you.
It's exciting for me, and I'm proud of you. I just want you to know that.
That's super good to hear. I forgot about that. I mean, I didn't forget about it, but it hadn't been on top of mind that night.
I also take credit. I know that like a bunch of people encouraged you, and you, of course, have free will.
I did it for you.
But I do feel like, hey, maybe I was the one drop in the bucket that set him over the threshold. Like that little bit of encouragement. If it hadn't been there, we wouldn't have this record. So, I'm excited to see you do that and inspired by it. Like as I watch you bring in new techniques, try different genres, I'm like, oh, I'm also not pigeonholed as an artist. Like, so
it's not just John Mayer covers.
It's definitely not.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that was definitely something that going into this record I was very conscious of, was like, I like lots of music.
Yeah.
I shouldn't pigeonhole myself just making one kind that feels like this is my lane. I'm a white dude with a acoustic guitar. I should make that kind of music. Like, no, I listen to music from all across the spectrum, and finding a way to incorporate different genres, styles, vibes, while still maintaining a sense of authenticity to who I am and what I do as a singer-songwriter felt really important. I don't know. I looked around at the first record that I made, and it was really good, and I love it, and I love those songs, but it's very it's one tiny sliver of my musical taste. Like I went and looked back at the inspiration playlist that I made for that first album, and it's like yeah, I love all this stuff, but
what was on that playlist?
Oh, that was a lot of just like classic rock and indie rock and guitar music.
Give me artist names.
So a ton of Bruce Springsteen, a ton of Fleetwood Mac, a ton of like Dawes.
Okay.
That and you know, more of actually at that time also I was really into some of these newer like Phoebe Bridgers, Lucy Dacus kind of like indie rockers of this new age. But that's just like one sliver of the kind of music that I make or that I like, and one approach to music making. And I guess there's a decision that you can make to just like drill down, but I was so bored. I like picked up a guitar after that first album came out, and I just kept playing the same things over and over again. I didn't want to keep doing that. Like it wasn't like a conscious decision so much as like, I need to make other things. I can't just keep making the same thing over and over again, because this is boring. I'm tired of myself.
Yeah. So did you find a way to make it unboring for this album?
Yeah, I made it hard. I made it difficult.
What challenge? How was it hard?
I think there's a way when you're exploring a sound that doesn't exist in your head yet, that the exploration is, let me try that again. I think when you're looking for something that you don't know what it looks like, there's just naturally wandering in the dark, versus if you've got like, I'm doing this thing, I'm in this mold. Mm-hmm. This mold has been done before and I'm updating it. I'm taking on my own version of it, versus I'm searching for something that I have never seen before. An amalgamation. I use the metaphor of a collage a lot in coming into this. Yep. Like, it's all pieces that you would recognize, but they are going to fit on top of each other in a way that nobody would expect or nobody would like think to do. And so when people ask me, what does it sound like? I mean, my answer is like, it's rock and roll, it's indie rock, but like, it doesn't sound like anything. And that was challenging at first because I didn't know what to compare it to. I didn't know what lane it lived in.
Yeah.
And also I didn't know exactly what I wanted it to sound like when I started off.
I want to give my impression of the first full track, The End.
Yeah.
First thing I related it to was Stevie Wonder. Is that
totally
appropriate, or does he inspire you?
Very much so.
I think I saw him above your fireplace.
Yeah.
At your house
Absolutely.
Just a minute ago.
He's like the North Star for sure.
And it also had, I've been playing a lot of Mario Kart World lately. It had like a Bowser's Castle feel of like
there's
a
something
big
90s
fiery
in there. I didn't go into it thinking about that, but when it came out of it, like honestly, there was something that there was a moment when I was listening to it back in early rough stages where I was like, this kind of sounds like jock jams, and I don't know if that's a bad thing. Mm-hmm. But like, I grew up in the 90s. Like, I grew up on jock jams a little bit, you know? And like, it's not that was something I was going for, but when you wander off into the darkness and you wind up, oh, that's right. That's a thing that's like in my sensibilities.
So how much of this project was you trying to meet an artistic ideal that you had predetermined versus discovering what you have available to you and following that interest?
I think it's a little bit of both. Okay. The artistic ideal was to evolve.
Okay.
And the evolution would be in whatever direction it wound up. I think you can set an intention of where you want to head, but if you hold too tightly onto a specific thing that you're going for, that's when it gets like, I think that's when you start to get inauthentic, because you're pushing to match, I really just want to make something that sounds like X. Versus if you're looking for growth and unsure of where that growth will necessarily lead you, that's when exciting stuff happens.
Were you trying to sound like somebody before, in hindsight, that you can tell?
Yeah, I was definitely trying to sound like I was not trying to sound like Stevie Wonder. I was definitely trying to sound like Springsteen. I was definitely trying to sound like Tom Petty. I was trying to fit a very particular mold that felt very comfortable. Mm-hmm. And I was affecting my voice in particular ways to like get a certain graveliness or get a certain something. Like, I don't have that gravelly of a voice. I don't have, I'm not from the South. I have pretty non-regional diction. Like, I'm not trying to put on a, hey, how's it going kind of a thing, where like, I think when you're trying to imitate or make something that sounds like something, you might end up doing something like that unconsciously, versus if you're just kind of open. And I think particularly if you're blending a lot of different influences, you'll wind up where you wind up, which is the most authentic expression.
Something that I've related to you on or looked for a connection about is like, I'm white from West Virginia, very into rap from like, a different world, different culture, but like something spoke to me about it that I wanted to imitate, that I wanted to be a part of, I was drawn to. And I imagine there's something about like small town, rustic, just something of another world from what you were born into that is appealing to you about your influences.
I mean, honestly, I do think particularly there's something interesting in just like being really attracted to black music or traditionally black styles and genres as a white kid from the suburbs. Like, there is a certain, like, you place a certain sense of like, oh, I could never do that. And some of that is because I don't have those experiences. Some of that is because like my body doesn't, I don't necessarily like approach singing. I didn't grow up in the church, right? Yeah. So I don't have those cadences in me. I don't have those chops in me. it's an imitation, right? And some of it is also just like fear of backlash or fear of like, I don't know, fear of looking like a white rapper from the early 2000s, you know?
Yeah.
But to deny the influence of Stevie Wonder on my music and my sensibilities in my life would be even more of an injustice. I think something that struck me a lot, because I spent a lot of this album outside of America, looking back at America, what helped me to realize also is like, that's not black music, that's American music. And I'm an American, and I grew up with that stuff on the radio, and I identify much more than I sit and walk around and say like, I'm a white guy from the suburbs. I'm like, I'm an American. And outside of America, those differences are much smaller, right? You know, you hear black people talk a lot about, especially in, you know, decades past, going to a place like France where I was and getting to feel just like an American, not like a black person. And I don't have that same experience, but getting to just be an American and looking back on that, I was like, that's the stuff that translates. Like, that's the stuff that everybody identifies with, whether they're black, white, Asian, American, French, European, it doesn't matter. Like, everybody likes James Brown.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Aretha Franklin. And that was what was most obvious to me in 2020, being in France, looking at the dumpster fire that was America, and constantly being questioned on my Americanness. And like, every conversation started with like, so Kanye's running for president, huh? Like, people were understandably a little like, it was the first time I felt self-conscious about being an American. And what I connected to most was that like, okay, but what are people listening to that's universally accepted? And a lot of the times it was Stevie Wonder, and or it was Kanye West, maybe early Kanye West, right? And so to like just be proud of like, okay, that's music that I grew up on. I'm not going to try and imitate it, but I'm not going to deny it. I'm going to make my version of it. And I'm lucky that I had a good producer that allowed me to like explore those things, but also was able to just tell me like, no, that's not it.
Who was your producer and why were they good?
Justin Glasgow is his name. And I think one of the things he was very good at was just telling me like, no, that's not it. Like, this is, I see what you're going for. I understand why you're going for it. That's not working. So don't give up on the idea, but let's see if we can refine it or fine tune it or do it in a different way that feels more authentic.
Are there any songs that come to mind on this record that particularly like his influence helped you get through those initial drafts that you were excited about? Like, in retrospect, have you gone back and listened to anything that you were working on early on before it became what it is now?
No is the answer to that question, although I can remember iterations of the songs. Like the end, the first song we were talking about, and the final verse, there is something that's a little bit like a spoken word passage, and figuring out the way to record that, figuring out the way to speak it, the cadence of it. Like, am I rapping? I don't know, right? But I definitely had to try rapping it and figure out if that was good, you know? And I didn't want to leave the option of rapping untried.
Right.
But I also needed to feel like, okay, I could try this. And it was longer at first. So that's something else that happened, is we cut it a little bit. But okay, I can try this and I can play with it and I can do it in a bunch of different ways. And I can find a way that feels like me, that doesn't feel like me trying to be something. But I do think that involves like pushing a boundary and then coming back from it.
Are you familiar with Awaken My Love? I assume the Childish Gambino album.
Yeah.
I also was reminded of the first track of that, of like there's clear throwback influences, but there's something like big and evolving and cinematic that I'm being introduced to here. I think you definitely did rap on the album somewhere. Is that, okay.
There's like 2 bars.
Yep. I wanted more. I was
cool.
Like, he gave me just a taste, and now like, yeah.
It was definitely something that I was like in like evolution on throughout it. Like, I'm definitely not a rapper. And actually that was something that was also important that Justin said to me was, I'm not saying you shouldn't rap this because you're white. I'm saying you shouldn't rap this because you're not a rapper. You haven't spent your career rapping. And it's not to say that I couldn't practice that or that I don't have some natural ability at it, but I spent my career being a singer-songwriter. Yeah. And I've spent my practice as a songwriter writing songs that have a sung melody. And that's
What's the difference to you?
A lot of it is like intonation and like pronunciation and attack. I think.
Okay.
Because I do write, and a lot of my songwriter influences have a lot of like rhythm in particularly in melodies and verses. Like it's not long drawn out things. There's a lot of rapid fire lyrics. So like I love, Springsteen being an example, Paul Simon, Joni Mitchell. They can give you full long multisyllabic sentences in a line. So it's not that so much as it is like a pose. I think it's a way you attack presenting the words that's a little bit like, you know it when you see it. But there are ways that you need to develop a flow that works for you. And that comes from some trial and error that I just hadn't really done, because I'm not sitting in my bedroom rapping. I'm sitting in my bedroom writing folk songs,
Yeah.
So again, authenticity, right? But that doesn't mean that I haven't put on a hip hop song and rapped along to it in the car.
Sure. And you've rapped with me on songs before.
I have.
Yeah,
I have.
Things that we've never released. I'm interested in how poetry has played into this album.
That's the closest thing. That's where I leaned onto. Instead of thinking about a lot of these sort of more spoken word parts as rap, I thought of them as poetry.
Yeah.
And I do recite poetry. I have read poetry with you, actually.
Yeah, I heard cadences that I recognized of like, okay, this is more like beatnik philosophical. This is like distinct from his singing, what's happening right now. Tell me about, like, I don't remember that in your music before this album.
Yeah, and that was important. Honestly, there was a big stretch where I wasn't writing a lot of songs and I was writing a lot of poetry. And I loved connecting to also just reading poetry, because there is something distinct in like the performance style of that, where you're leaning into the words. Reading a poem is somewhere in between singing, rapping, and acting. And it kind of converges a lot of those things. And there's a way that you need to embody it. There's a way that you need to pronounce it. There's a way that you need to think about the rhythm. There's a way that you need to think about the cadence. And then there's a way that you need to think about, what are the words that I'm saying and how do I deliver them to the most effect? And that felt like something that I had worked on and done. And so when it comes to some of these more like spoken wordy kind of things, I really wanted to just think about like, yeah, they rhyme. A lot of my poems aren't like super rhymey poems, but there are rhymes in them. There's a musicality to them. There's a rhythm to them. And I know how to read them. So let me just do it like that,
Yeah. I just started this, the intro of this book on the structure of poetry, and it claimed like all poems, just by the way they're organized on the page, start with one demand of the reader that's distinct from other pieces, and that is to slow way down.
Totally.
Yeah, I didn't end up getting the book, but I was like, that's an important insight that I hadn't really thought about poetry, but just by having like breaks and a couple words and then space and then another couple words, like that's different from reading a page that's full left to right.
Yeah, I think it also gives you the opportunity to play with speed, to speed up and slow down, or to slow down, and then when it gets impassioned, you can up the tempo.
I've played with tell me if I'm getting too off topic for
I like
this interview, but
Go
okay. We might get gold here. Starting to treat texts more like poems, of like considering line breaks and trying to give it a rhythm.
Yeah. I think that's something also that I've in a similar way, I've taken from hip hop into my own non-rap songwriting. Is like, you can fit that lyric into this line.
Yeah.
It may be a lot of words. It may not immediately come to you, but you can massage it. Like, go listen to some Kendrick Lamar. He can fit anything into any line that he wants and make it musical. The key is you can't force it. You've got to find a way to make it musical. Maybe you've got to enjam it onto the next line. But I think that practice of like, all right, taking any text and thinking, where are the line breaks and where are the ways that I want to fit this, measure this, that definitely influenced my lyric writing. I wasn't thinking like, oh, okay, it needs to be this number of syllables and it needs to match with that number of syllables and have a parallel, whatever. It just needs to be musical.
Whenever we're improvising songs and we make a mistake, we'll say like, just do it again. And then you've made it not a mistake. It's the difference between dropping the ball and dribbling the ball. Like if you drop it twice, now you're dribbling and people don't think that you've made a mistake.
The song Side of the Hill was also an interesting one in that I think that there's a new style of performing that's kind of, it's not quite like the sung rap that we think about, like Drake or the auto-tune thing, but something more in the realm of Frank Ocean and Mac Miller, where there's a style of melodic rapping or like rhythmic singing that's kind of in between the two. And that was an interesting thing to figure out.
Can
how
you
to
demonstrate it?
We can play a clip from the song.
I'm interested in like just the off the cuff impression of, you know, not for a studio release or anything, and you don't need to keep this in the interview if you don't like it. But
yeah, I'm trying to. I mean, like the opening line of Side of the Hill is, and it's mostly, part of it is, it's a lot of it is in my like spoken voice.
Okay.
So like literally when I sing it, it sounds very similar to my spoken voice. I go, it used to be like I never had a minute. There's something sing-songy about it. There is a melody to it. It's going up and down, but it's not, I am not singing it. It used to be like I never, some of it's speed, right? But it's like more about the approach than it is about the actual notes. Because there are notes. There are melody lines there, but they're subtle and they're sung in such a way that feels not mumbly, but feels spoken. That feels more conversational.
Yeah. I was watching a video on YouTube last night about rappers' micro-timing adjustments and how that makes the message clearer when they're a little bit off-grid to make it resemble more the way that you actually parse words in conversation.
Yeah, that's something that I think is really, I didn't appreciate about just any form of singing, but particularly when you get into stuff that's really more rhythmic, is you got to pocket it. Like, it's not just about hitting the notes. It's also about like sinking into the groove. Yeah. Especially if you're doing something really rhythmic, if you're doing something where like the point is that it's rhythmic and that's what's making the song interesting. Yeah. The rhythm has to be right and not just on the grid. It has to feel good. And that's something you got to find. And I think that comes back to the idea of like finding a flow. Is like you have to feel that.
Do you have any idea on a philosophy about limiting the number of points of interest in a song or in a given, like if a rhythmic idea is what you think is interesting, will you like make other things simplistic to allow that to shine? Do you ever like struggle to decide what's the most interesting thing that you want to highlight, or like have too many competing points of interest?
Yeah, I wanted to have a process in, I think it's really important to always have a mute stuff phase. Okay. At the end of recording stuff, you're constantly trying to like add things on. What's another layer we can do? What else can we add in here? I think it's really important to then have a phase where you go in, okay, let's mute everything and let's bring up the faders one at a time. And let's hear, okay, what does it sound like without that? What do we really need? What's just, okay, it was cool, but it's just extra.
Were there any major deletions that process gave you on this record?
Yeah. The end is, to come back to that one, the end, we started off, we recorded that live. A lot of these songs we recorded with a band live, the foundational track. So bass, drums, keys, guitar.
Everybody in the same room.
Everybody in the same room playing at the same time. And the end, we actually we literally just took the bass. We took the bass and then we chopped up the clavinet. Yeah. And like the bass was just doing so much. It was so good. Yeah. And all the other stuff was distracting from it. And so we then recut the drums because like this bass is like, let's play to the bass, right? And you can't necessarily figure that out when you're doing it live. But, you know, we just kind of needed to, it wasn't working. So we were like, mute. What's cool? That. And a lot of times that's all you need. A bass, a drum, everything else extra. Of course, we then like layered a ton of other crap on top of it, synths and horns and, you know, a bunch of different clavinets and other things and an organ, but like we cut everything first and found the core.
Cool. It seemed to me like different songs had different production bags of tricks. Yeah. More on this album than previous work of yours. Did you come up with did you have experiments that you were like, no, this doesn't fit some type of rules that I've discovered for this album? Like this is too left field, or this doesn't belong with the other pieces?
The point was to have a collage. Yeah. And so what the ultimate answer is did it feel good? Not whether it made sense. So I think there were things that we tried that didn't feel good, but it's not like, oh, well, this is too much of a left turn.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, okay, that's not working.
How did you decide whether things felt good or not? I think I talked to you a couple weeks ago or months maybe, and you said that you had some mixed feelings. You were like, I've loved these things, but now on the eve of like putting it out, I'm not sure about pieces of it. Did that stick with you? Like, I know the ups and downs of like loving and then hating and waking up and having a totally different feeling about it. Like, where do you stand now? And talk about that, like the journey of liking and disliking, if you will.
Yeah. I think that I thought I'd failed at making the record until the moment the record came out. As soon as it came out and I saw it all together with the album art, with the sequence, I saw it at not a huge Spotify.
You saw it on Spotify?
Junkie, but as soon as I saw it on Spotify, I was like, oh, okay. I see the whole thing. And I listened to the whole thing, and I was able to just like put it on the speakers in the kitchen while I was cooking and like experience it more like a fan and rather than an artist. And all of a sudden, all the things that I was worried about fell away because it was an album and I was in the album rather than in like, okay, I'm just listening to this one song and judging whether this song fits well on this playlist or something like that, or whether a person would play this song at a party on a Friday night. I'm like, oh, the album, somebody could just put on the background while they're doing the dishes like I'm doing right now, and it's a very pleasant experience, turns out.
Do you fantasize about the ways that people use the album or intend for them to give the album a certain purpose in a certain type of person's life as you're making it?
Less so now. I think the first time I made an album, I was very much like, you need to sit and listen to this album with your best headphones and you need to concentrate on it right away. Like, that's your primary focus.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. I'm glad if people do that, but I really wanted to make something that also felt.
If somebody does that, what do you want to change in them? We used to say poetry is like anything that changes the way you do something next. If this is a kind of poetry, like what changes do you expect or hope happen in people?
I want them to feel a certain complex set of emotions all together at once that allows them to wrestle with their own complex set of emotions all together at once. I think we get a little bit too caught in the one primary feeling and we display that one primary feeling or talk about that one primary feeling, but that one primary feeling is backed up by a whole bunch of other context and nuances and little things that you're dealing with. And so the progression of this album, I think the starting point and the ending point are very similar in terms of what I was trying to reckon with, but the secondary and tertiary emotions were very different by the time you get through the end of the album. And so being able to like essentially not judge a book by its cover, right? Open up and see this one feeling and then unpack what all goes into that and why that person is feeling the way that they are. And I think that's something that we need a little bit more of these days.
Okay. So I'm hearing like there's a thesis on the importance of introspection, seeing things as layered and not like reducing them to a single bullet point or sound clip.
Yeah. I think that there's something to, we're all, let me see. There's a way in which we get TikTokified, whether we like it or not. We've all been adjusted to sound bites, hooks, headlines. And I think I even like pride myself on like, I can get the full story. I don't need to read the whole thing. And that is true in a lot of cases. Like, as a matter of fact, I wouldn't recommend reading the whole news story. Just get the high level info because you'll get enraged. But I think that we need to find other spaces outside of like news and politics in particular, where we're getting into the nuance of a character, because I think that allows us to increase our empathy. I think that allows us to increase our understanding of other people. I think that allows us to increase our ability to relate interpersonally with people. If we can see that, yes, somebody has come to this surface level place, and this one sliver of them I may disagree with them on, but that does not define the whole of who they are. And I actually, if I see the full picture, might actually agree with that sliver a little bit more. because I see where it's coming from. I see what's underneath it. I see why they've come to that way that they're projecting themselves.
Does anybody in particular come to mind that you've experienced that with, that you're willing to talk about?
No, I mean, the person that comes to mind is me. Like, I think there's a way that we're not always aware of how we come across to other people. And especially when we go out into a social situation, we bring with us a lot of unseen expectations that other people will pick up on.
Mm-hmm.
And your first interactions are usually your most impressioned, right?
Yeah.
So I think that with my own like kind of understanding of myself, getting a better sense of how people see me on the surface, getting a better sense of how that relates to the person that I know myself to be, getting a better sense of how that person in the mirror is not the person that I have of myself in my head, right? Like my self-image is not exactly identical to like the physical outer image.
Sure.
And I think learning to reckon what's in between those two images and kind of blend them all together allows me to then show up as the more full-rounded person that I think somebody, if they spent more time with me, would come to find regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm hoping that I can be able to show that person to people more fully, even in a shorter interaction, without forcing anything, because I think what gets forced is what comes to the surface. But how can we bring up maybe what's buried?
Yeah.
Then you get this phenomenon in LA in particular of like trauma dumping, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where like, oh, I call it being fake deep. Like people, like a new form of small talk is talking about your deep emotional trauma, which is like, then you're kind of inverting the whole thing. But that's not the same thing either, right? Because that's still only one side of the puzzle,
mm-hmm.
right? Like, oh, I just really struggle with this like vulnerability problems that I have. That's not all of who you are. Because clearly you don't talk. You're talking to me about your vulnerability problems. You're not that. Right. You're not having that many problems with them, right?
Yeah, and it's probably a rehearsed thing.
Yeah, they've said it before.
You're not really uncovering something right now. This is a new shield.
Yeah, you've thought about that. So I think something about like bridging those divides is important. And I do feel as though this album does that for me. But hopefully, in like being honest with myself about how I uncover those layers, other people can see like, yeah, I do something similar.
Okay, I'm excited about these next two questions.
Cool.
If somebody meets you through your music by putting on this album or seeing you do a live show, what's your ideal reaction in their head? If they were to describe you to somebody else, what do you hope that they judge about you?
I hope they see a real three-dimensional person. I hope that they see like a genuine, authentic person that they can relate to. I know we talk about like relatability a little bit too much with Taylor Swift as the primary example, but I think it's important that people see themselves and see. I hope people find a person that they feel like they know and that they feel like they can talk to. I feel like the internet has closed the gap between artists and audiences. And I'm not a massive artist, so it's not like I would feel anything other than I'm just a person putting out music and you're a person listening to music. And so I hope that they can encounter me and go, that's a person just like me, you know? And it sounds so simple, but the approachability of it and the ability to like see yourself in that process, I don't think that there's anything more important that art can do than to simply like share a personal experience that then feels universal. And so if somebody can see what I'm wrestling with on the page and say, I feel that, or I can do something like that, or I totally get what they're going for. I'm doing my own version of it. I want to say hi to them. The fact that they can feel like they could establish a connection with me, that feels, and a real connection, like say hi to me. I'm a real person. And I think we're all isolated and alone and lost on the internet and comparing ourselves to other people. And every now and again, you get a message from a new person that you've never met before that is genuine. And all of a sudden you go, oh, maybe this stuff isn't that bad. Maybe social media does have a place in society that is positive and helping the world. And it's all about that ability to like share genuinely.
Do you have a favorite cherished reaction that comes to mind that somebody either introduced themselves and told you the effect you've had, or an impression that they had of your performance or your recordings?
I mean, I had a 2-hour long conversation yesterday with a guy. I mean, he was a kid when he DM'd me 5 years ago because he found my music on Spotify. And this was when I had just started putting out songs and I had no real audience to speak of. But some kid from Kansas City hit me up and was like, yo, I really like what you're doing. This is pretty cool. And 5 years later, like, we're friends. And he's a musician himself, and I've been able to like give him pointers about what I think he should be working on or thinking about as he's trying to build his career. And he's been able to give me a lot of ideas of how I should be presenting myself and what works from a fan's perspective, but also just as peers, like especially as it's been 5 years, he's not a kid anymore. I've just become a friend of his, like, and he's become a friend of mine, and that would never have happened in a world before, right? And I remember at the beginning, I was even like hesitant. I was like, who is this person? Like, are they real? You know, why are they talking to me?
Yeah.
But all it took was me just going and sending back like 2 more texts and realizing, oh, it's a real person.
Yeah.
This isn't somebody, like, this isn't a bot in my DMs, you know, or this isn't someone sliding up in my DMs. This is like a real person saying hi and telling me that they're like into what I'm doing and a full-bodied human being themselves.
I admire that. That's the kind of role that I want music or art to play in my life generally, is that it could be like a lighthouse that other people identify. Oh yeah, I have something in common with that guy, and then they approach me because I did that thing. It's like I've posted my resume or a dating profile or something like that up in the world, and then from then on it will help attract like-minded people.
Totally. I see that completely. I've used that metaphor of a lighthouse, or like sending out a light beam into the universe, and not everyone's going to be attracted to your light beam, but like send it. Someone might need it, you know? And if those that find it, keep the light beam strong. And you can send out multiple light beams too, especially in like today's day and age. Like, but try to find those people and make the connection genuine. Don't think of it too much as, I've got a funnel and I need to lead generate and I need to like send people down the marketing pipeline. Like, no, put yourself out there, find real people, connect with them. At a certain point, someone might say that's unscalable, but fuck that. Like, yeah, it's not scalable. Sure. I'd rather make 5,000 really genuine connections than 5 million broad ones that there isn't a connection. It's not as satisfying.
I've heard those are the happiest artists, who have like 10,000 diehard fans, and then the rest of the world doesn't know about them, and they can still go to Disneyland and not be swarmed with their family.
That is absolutely my ideal for a career. I would love to be an important person to a small number of people and nobody to everybody else.
Yeah. Okay, the flip side to a question I asked earlier, what are your biggest fears of people's judgments of you when they see you perform or hear your record?
Trying too hard. I don't want people to think I'm trying too hard.
Trying too hard to what?
In general. I think it's a fine line with performing, because you're putting on a show. And so if you show up there as like, I don't really care, I'm just in my t-shirt, I'm not even gonna recognize the audience. I guess that's a certain vibe for a certain kind of music, but that's not what I'm trying to do. You're a performer. Perform. But at the same time, perform your thing to the limits of what you do well, and maybe a little bit beyond. Like, take a risk or two, but don't push, don't force. You can tell.
Can you think of a time that you pushed or forced? Experiment. If you took a risk and then you're like, nah, that's not actually who I want to be.
I mean,
here.
I said this earlier, but like I used to talk in like a voice that wasn't my own on stage.
Can you do an impression of it?
Like, I would just kind of do a little bit, like, I would do this thing, I was just trying to be cool. Hey guys, how we doing? How we doing tonight? Like, I don't talk like that, And so, but that's because I was uncomfortable in my own skin. So now when I'm on stage, look, I don't always talk on stage exactly like I would talk if I were sitting in my living room talking to my wife, because I'm performing, right? But I talk like I'm talking now. I talk like I'm talking if I'm having a conversation with somebody.
That's a hard middle point, like balance for me to strike. I just want to validate. It's hard to be yourself in front of a group of large people who are all like the social norm is they're supposed to pay attention to you, and you're supposed to give them something that makes it worth their attention.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the big thing that I've always found is like letting it, you're sucking them in. You're not, you want to draw them in rather than force yourself onto them. If you draw them in, then you can bring them up. And if you can get to a big crescendo or a point where you're really breaking through, then we all break through together. Versus if you just come out wailing and they're not in it, then you're just dumping on them.
Yeah. That
was something that Claire, my wife, really helped me with coming from album 1 to album 2. Having someone who loves you but is unafraid to give you real feedback is very valuable. French people are great at this. And
what real feedback did she give you?
She was like, you scream too much, dude.
Yeah.
It's like, we're not with you yet. Like, you get to that point where you're really belting, but we haven't built up to it.
Yeah.
So bring us there. Like, let us earn that moment of release rather than just releasing. And that can be cathartic for you, but the audience isn't going to experience it in the same way if they're not also on that crescendo. And so that was something that I very much wanted to work towards as well.
Say the name of the album.
Love is everything and it will not save you.
What does this mean to you?
Love is everything. All you need is love. All those cliches and truisms are true, but they're just a starting point. They're not a destination. And we get a lot of love stories sold to us. We get romantic love in particular commodified as this thing that we need to all be looking to accomplish in order to be happy, right? And then the rom-com ends when they fall in love. And I fell in love and it was everything I wanted it to be and more. And I was distressed and distraught and watching the world burn around me during a viral pandemic and watching my, social structures fall apart and watching my country fall to shit. And I was in this very beautiful, idyllic place. My wife is from the south of France. I really had everything I could have dreamed of. It was so good I couldn't have dreamed of it. Like, I wouldn't have thought when I was interminably single and like hopelessly alone that one day I would not just find this partner that would be all the things that I needed, but that they would also open up my world, that they would bring me to new places, that they would show me new cultures, that I would get to live this dream of being an expat and, all that good stuff. Like, I didn't daydream about that. It was too much. And yet it was all here. And I was distressed because it all happened during the pandemic, during some tremendous uprisings in our country, during a very turbulent election, during an insurrection, during moments that made me feel as though I needed to be involved in doing good for the world. And I was far away and I was kind of hiding out. It was a time where I wasn't connected to my community. I wasn't connected to my sense of purpose. And I wasn't connected to myself as an artist. I was very much in love and I was very happy in those moments. And as soon as like something beautiful faded away and we got into the daily moments of life, I was really depressed and I was really distressed and I didn't know what to do with myself. So love is everything because here I am. I made this album and I wouldn't have done this. It's a love story. It's an album that is built out of the encouragement and empowerment that came from that relationship and that still is empowered by that relationship. We're married now. But it's the power that comes from that love that allows me to then go make an album, make an artistic statement, push it out to the world, and get involved in my community and try to be a force of at least contributing something, being of service to the world around me rather than running away and wallowing in self-pity.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any thoughts about speaking to social issues? What inspires you to do that, and which ones are important for you to talk about in music? That
was a really hard thing to figure out also. I don't want to lean too much into what some people will immediately write off as identity politics. But as a straight white man in 2020, it was a moment where I felt deep disappointment in my people and where I came from, and a lot of disillusionment with some of the lessons that I'd learned, a lot of eye-opening and awakening to things that I'd kind of known but not fully realized. And it didn't feel like it was my place to speak on those things, at least not at that point in time. I didn't want to just be another voice pontificating what I'd learned about race in America, you know? So what felt really important to express was my own experience. So rather than pontificating on race in America, I could pontificate on what it's like to grow up in the suburbs with a good amount of privilege and be sent off into the world, told, here are the steps that you should take to live a good and happy life, and then be bamboozled because they don't work anymore. They don't give you a good and happy life. I don't know if they ever worked. So that kind of social commentary felt really important because it was my way to contribute to the conversation in a way that felt authentic, that wasn't telling somebody else's story, but that still contributed to the broader social narratives. I think that all of these things, whether we're talking about race or we're talking about income inequality or we're talking about privilege or we're just talking about general social unease, a lot of it comes from the systems that we've been raised in. Not from individual people, not from particular actors, but the structures that bound a lot of our social interactions, as well as the soft skills, the soft power of what we've been told to believe in and what we've been told to chase and what we've been told is important. And I come from a unique place where my people kind of achieved the American dream with relative ease. I come from European refugees. So they were refugees escaping the Holocaust, escaping horrifying things. Within like 2 generations, I'm here and I can do whatever I want. You know, there are very few systemic or social limitations on me based on my appearance, my identity, my race. That's not true of most other people that immigrate to the United States under similar circumstances. And sure, there are things we could say about European Jews that we did a great job of, but that's not true of pretty much any other immigrant group. And it worked for these people, and that's a beautiful thing. And I think that's part of like the challenge right now is that like it can work. It does work. That kind of upward mobility doesn't happen outside of America very easily, but it did happen pretty easily for European Jews. And I think that then is important to like acknowledge and speak of, well, what else is going on that's allowing that to happen so easily? And why is this happening for us, but not for other people? And so I was able to see the things that like propelled my family history forward. And think about like where are the things that are not working? Because it's also true that like it was very easy for my parents in particular, like that generation, to go to college, get a good job, buy a house, move to the suburbs, have 3 kids. Good, right? Done the job. I don't think our generation could do that. My dad had like a small business in a way that like doesn't exist anymore. He fixed printers, you know, with like 6 guys in a shop. I don't think that business allows him to live in the suburbs of New York City with 3 kids and send them all to college. No way. And so it's kind of like it's exposing the lie a little bit, or the fib. I don't think it's an intentional lie, not all the time at least, but I was able to tell that story in a way that felt like, okay, I'm not imposing my commentary on social issues. I'm telling what I've felt and been through. And I think that's what's really important about hearing the whole album, is that it starts off very jabby and confrontational. Yeah. And ends up at a place where it's softened because there's all these other nuances in how I've been reckoning with my place in the world and falling in love, right?
Okay. Yeah, there's two phrases in the title, and the first is like an absolute, maybe like a college idealism, and then there's you in your 30s, but also like here's the exceptions, or here's
right.
Yeah, you're adding a layer of nuance to it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel it in like I love my wife. I'm super proud of what she does. She's an entrepreneur. I really believe in the work that she's doing. And there's a part of me that's like, yeah, well, one day she's going to like blow up and get rich. I'm waiting for her to save me.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to happen. She's going to accomplish the stuff that she needs to accomplish if I'm accomplishing the stuff that I need to accomplish. Our partnership is going to succeed if both of us are doing our own thing as individuals. I can't wait for that love to be the thing that lifts me up. It will like give me a platform to stand on, but it's not going to like get me to the promised land.
So I want to ask this directly. If love won't save you, what will?
Yourself.
How do you do that?
Love will empower you to be and do the things that you know you should be doing. I think it's very hard to always be doing the things that you want to do, that you know in your head, I should be doing this. Like, I think that's the thing, particularly when you're comfortable. The thing that has replaced like discomfort in our society is that sense of anxiety, depression, disease, with the fact that I didn't do what I said I wanted to do. I'm not doing what I know I should be doing. Shame. Yeah. Guilt, procrastination, avoidance, all that stuff. And I think love can help you work through that and show you that you are right in your sense of what you should be doing. You should stay on that path. Here are some pieces of feedback that might help you along that path.
Yeah.
Here's some encouragement. But go do your thing. I love you. You, the you that I see. So go be that you. Don't be the you that's in your head.
I'm remembering as you say that something I just read from Ann Patchett's essay, The Getaway Car. She said, like the big thing that limits artists is their mercy, their ability to forgive themselves, because you butcher the beautiful things that your mind creates when you try to translate them into something for the rest of the world. And most people get caught up on having a grudge against themselves, like a resentment of like, I ruined something, because your craft never matches like this world of beauty that inspiration is. I wonder if you have had to forgive yourself, what your relationship to forgiving yourself is, for previous attempts, for like steps along the way, for anything in this process.
A lot. I mean, like I said, I kind of hated this album until the moment it came out.
Yeah.
Because of exactly that. I was like, I didn't get what I was going for, but you never get what you're going for. And I think that's also the motivation to make a third album or keep making more songs, keep going.
In what ways didn't you get what you were going for? If you're speaking from pre-release, like what would that you have said? Feel free to cut this if you don't feel like sharing it publicly.
I wanted to feel, it's interesting because there were things that I was learning as I was making the album. So I wrote a lot of the album on the piano. I'm not a great piano player. So I was playing to like my limit at that time. There are things about production that I was also learning. There are things about singing that I was learning. And especially being in your 30s, you run up against physical limitations in a way that you didn't when you're maybe in your teens or your 20s. Like
what?
Like my hands don't have the same dexterity that I would like them to have. And when you're like 15 or even 25 and you're practicing, you're like, okay, if I just keep practicing, my hands will get more dexterous. And that's true. But I've been popping these knuckles for 25 years now. Like I've been doing shit. I've been not stressing. There are certain limitations that my fingers have. Like I'm never going to be Art Tatum on the piano at this point in my life. Right. Yeah. It's a little too late for that. And, running up against that and confronting that can be at first really challenging.
Go in there and drag MIDI notes though.
Totally.
If you got the idea.
Sure.
You don't need the fingers to do it.
I guess. But no, I disagree with that. I do think that like there's certain things that like if it's dragged to MIDI notes, you'll feel it. Like and I think that there's something to like accepting, okay, this is what I can do.
Yeah.
So that process of accepting that was hard, you know? So like you're listening to the album, being like, oh, but I could do more. I wish I could do more. There's more of me to share here. There's more of me to bring out in this, but the recording is a moment in time.
Yeah.
Actually, it's one of those, if I can venture into being pretentious for a second.
I think that's okay.
Is one of those cool things where like a word in French, something about the French word just like speaks to the thing, I think, a little bit better. The French word for recording is enregistrement, which it's like in registering.
Yeah.
But it's kind of an adverb. It's something that's like happening in time. It's like a capturing of a thing that is ongoing, in a way that like we would talk about a recording. It doesn't quite give me that same sense of like, this is just a moment of time that we've recorded. And I think that that's really a valuable way to think about particularly music. Like it's being written onto the tape as we're going. And what we're capturing is that whatever's in the air. And that can be hard to look at or listen to, especially when it's now like a year plus past when you maybe recorded those vocals or played that piano part. You're like, damn, there's more that I could have done there, but that was who I was at that time. And learning to accept that is hard, but also like important, essential, because then that's what allows you to say like, okay, I got to go make another one.
Is there something that you're excited to drive for the next?
I'm excited to use my voice more and differently, to keep exploring what I can do with my voice. I think this was an album where I did a lot of work on my vocals, but I was still, like I said, figuring them out as I went. And now I feel like I have a better sense of the ways I can use my voice, and I want to just keep playing with that and making that more central.
Will you teach me how you used your voice on this album? Like, show me,
like right now,
what pieces of it? Yeah, if you're willing.
There were different things. Shout out to Raz Kennedy.
Yeah,
who's an incredible vocal
What did
coach.
Raz teach you?
Different ways to think about, like, there are different ways to sing. It's not, this comes back to what we were saying about like being authentic and being yourself. You can make choices though in how you want to sing something in order to take on a certain style or a certain sound. And it's still going to filter through. I think if you're like using proper technique, it's going to sound like you. If you're just imitating, it's going to sound like you're imitating. And so certain things about like just the setting of your mouth when you sing, like this expression or this expression, or like different warm-ups, different syllables to sing, different parts of your voice to open up. It looks and sounds really silly, but like scrunching your nose does something different. Yeah. Widening your mouth does something different. Thinking about making your support come more from, like, the diaphragm should always be engaged, but is it here where you're feeling the focus, or are you also engaging your back muscles? Are you also expanding your ribs at the same time? All those different ways of then blending the different settings together was really valuable. Now, the key that I got to get to is, like, do your homework and then throw it out. I think on this album, I was still like thinking about, all right, I'm engaging my ribs and I'm pushing my back muscles and I'm thinking about my vocal setting. And now I just kind of want to sing.
Like, let all that be unconscious and automatic.
Yeah.
Is there a particular bodily configuration that you've enjoyed playing with that's like your sweet spot or where your comfort zone in this phase?
I think my comfort zone, I've definitely learned to use my like more baritone register more, and be like cool with expressing in this, what feels like a sort of less impressive range as a singer. But just like letting the warmth of it and the like naturalness of it be the thing that's cool. But I was also able to feel like I could sing bigger, higher notes without like straining for them. I could sing them rather than reach for them.
You're reminding me, it felt like there were two sides to this album of like trying to excite and blow up and explode, and then a side that's trying to soothe, calm and be like sweet. And two different like approaches to production too, and what instruments, like whether there was like big organic crashing things versus like twinkling, some electronic shimmering things. Yeah. Do you have thoughts on that? Did I nail it? Is that
Yes, nailed it. No, I mean, again, coming back to that idea of collage.
Yeah.
I think it was really important for us to have organic and digital sitting on top of each other, being in different places as well. I think it was important. I think music can either hit you or it can draw you in. And I think you're most successful when you can do both at the right time. So I also think that we all contain multitudes. I also think that we all have moments where we really need to scream, and we all have moments where we need to cry in our mom's bosom or something. Like, and capturing that full range with the full sonic soundscape that is available to us now that we live in this digital world, felt like a really cool opportunity. Because there's a lot of stuff that's grounded in tradition and classics and like recorded live in a room on analog gear. And then there's this whole infinite space that we can explore on a computer. And I was born in 1990. So like peak millennial, you know, I came up with the internet. I came up where I remember a time before the digital age, but I also did kind of grow up with it. And I think that's just like a natural expression of the world I've always lived in. It's like, I remember not having the internet, but I've had it most of my life. And I think both of those things are really important to who I am. And both of those things I think are really important to a lot of people our age who are going through these changes in society right now, especially as like, you know, things have changed exponentially since when I wrote these songs a couple of years ago. The way that technology and the digital space exists in our life has continued to just get more and more morphed into it. And it's a part of our emotional set now too. Like the technology, like I think it's not a coincidence that like the sad robot thing was really big in like the 2010s, like the Daft Punk kind of like Bon Iver, a lot of those like sad robot sounds. Speak to like a way in which the technology that we use and the way that we live in the world has impacted our emotional resonances as well. And so to just do something that's like there's one song that's just an acoustic guitar, my voice, analog gear, classic, and that's cool. I love that. But to just do that would not be to do justice to all of the emotions that I feel. There's another song that's just in the box, digital production, and
which song is that?
Solely Straight to You. Actually, there's a moment in that song where it flips. The first like 2/3 of the song are all digital production, and purposefully so. And then at about the 2/3 mark, we bring in acoustic instruments, and all of a sudden the live drum comes in, and it's like a whole new scene, and everything shifts and changes. And like even if you're not like an audiophile, you can feel it, because there's this like opening up and expansion of, all right, we've been only living in one world, now we're living in both, and everything has just become a little bit more wide. That song felt important in particular. There are songs that are just simple, and they can be just a simple song on a guitar or on a piano. And that one was totally a simple song, but I think sometimes those songs need to be fully explored out in all that they can be. Because that's a better representation of the world we live in, right? We live in a world of infinite possibilities, and I don't think that it would I don't think it would capture the emotion properly if I didn't put it in the universe that we exist in, which at that time was a quarantine relationship where I was literally falling in love over FaceTime.
Yeah.
You know, so to make that very analog and organic would be incorrect to the emotion.
What's the meaning of the line, "Let's find a better place to hide"?
It took me a while to figure it out, but it's a rallying cry. It's like that song's pretty snide and cynical, satirical maybe, but
tongue in cheek even.
Tongue in cheek, yeah. There were, there was a lot of people during the pandemic who had the ability to got out of cities. They went back and moved in with their parents, or whatever, moved to the countryside, stuff like that. And it felt like the story of that song is like, in my head, the story of that song are a bunch of like finance bros, but that don't come from privilege, but who have kind of like tried to work their way into privilege by being finance bros. A little like I'm picturing like Jonah Hill in The Wolf of Wall Street.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so those guys are then trying to go hide out on the Hamptons with old money, rich people. And none of that works well, right? I don't think any of that should be like the exemplar of what we're trying to do in our society when things fall apart and everybody's in danger. So the idea of let's find a better place to hide is like, I don't know, let's find a, like, what was it? Zion in the Matrix. Let's find a place where people actually come together and take care of each other rather than put up gates and walls and try to like weasel our way in.
Is that place Burning Man?
Could be.
Where else do you have in mind, if not Burning Man?
It's more of a mindset than a place, I think. I found it in Los Angeles. I found it in France.
Will you describe the mindset?
Well, I can't give a Burning Man story actually. Now that you mention it, I remember coming back from. My friends got married. You were there. Our friends got married out at the edge of the playa, at the edge of where you can go at Burning Man at sunrise. I had been out all night. I was on some drugs. I had run out of water. I had lost my bike. I had done all the things that you're told not to do, all the things that my parents would have like had a nightmare about me doing, right? Like, here it is, hedonism writ large and all of its problems. And I was so well taken care of. I was able to ask for help from one person who I didn't know, who then helped me find a friend, who then helped me find more friends, who then helped me find my bike, who then gave me water, who then we like rode in. It's then like a long, hot ride in from there back into the city. And as we arrive into the city, there was just a woman standing there at the edge of the city with a plate full of fresh tomatoes being like, hey, I saw you guys coming. I thought you might want some of these. What a world, right? Like coming back from like all night bacchanalia, like just the tenderness and sweetness of somebody to like take care of people because they felt like it. I don't know how that gets writ large for all of society, but that mindset of like, I just want to be of service. I want to feel safe. I want to be able to, ask for help and receive it. I want to be able to give help easily and know that I'm taken care of and know that other people are as well. Everyone, if you made it this far in the podcast, I love you. Thank you for listening so intently and for so long. If you're watching this on YouTube, drop a comment right now in the comment section that just says love is everything, and I will send you a little gift. If you're not watching this on YouTube, go to davidred.substack.com, find literally any post, and just comment love is everything, and same deal. I will send you a little surprise. Thank you for listening. Obviously, like, subscribe, do all those things. But if you've made it this far, I think you've already done that. So cheers, y'all. Back to the interview. I do think that we're losing sight of the value of an album as like a full piece of art that's greater than a collection of songs. I think of like the masterpiece albums that I hold dear, that like people hold up. Like,
what are those?
I don't know. You think about Sgt. Pepper's. You think about Pet Sounds. I think about There's a Riot Going On by Sly Stone.
Yeah.
There's like good songs on that album, great songs on that album, but the masterpiece is the album. It's like the full thing. And going through and living in that world, that's what gets you the full emotional resonance. And like we were talking about, I think on my album, like if you just get one song, you might get one little impression of me, versus if you start off with this song that's like politically aggressive, a little bit provocative, inflammatory, and then you work through the rest of the songs and you get the fuller context, you see the vulnerability, you see all the emotions that led to that frustration and cynicism. And then you get to the end, you see, oh, there's like a full picture here. And that's the last song is called Did You Think It'd Be Easy to Change the World? You're laughing at yourself a little bit. And I think that's like a broader social thing that we're struggling with as a society, right? Like everything getting condensed into what we can quickly bite off, it just makes us mad. We're all just mad because all we're responding to is that one little bit rather than the full nuance.
What do you think the difference between an album and a playlist is? What should an album do that a playlist doesn't?
An album should create a universe. An album should give you some form of emotional. The emotions of an album should be intentional and cohesive. You can put on like a rainy day vibes playlist, and they'll all fit in like the same general mood. Mm-hmm. But I don't think they're necessarily pointing you towards a broader emotional resonance, if that makes sense.
Can you walk me through the emotional journey that you have if you listen to this album?
I see somebody who's angry and frustrated and mad at themselves, and I see them uncover where that hurt comes from and accept the good things that they've figured out, and allowing that to keep going forward in spite of or with the frustration and anger and pain that they're still carrying. That's not one song, you know? That's not even one word. I can't boil that down into one. That's a long sentence, you know?
Yeah.
And it has to be. It can't be 6 seconds. It has to be like, it's more nuanced than that. It's a mix. It's a mix of emotions. It's an amalgam of things. Were there other things? I'm curious because I have no idea what this thing sounds like. Were there other either albums, artists, things that you felt like this felt in concert with or reminded you of?
I heard a bit of Bon Iver, I think on Ash and Smoke. There were times that I'm like, I don't have enough references to know how to triangulate this. I think it sounded a little like Postal Service to me. Did I already text you this?
No.
I'm struggling to remember what song it was, but it was very like sweet and poppy. In a way that reminded me of them. I've already told you Childish Gambino and Stevie Wonder.
Cool. I'll take those.
And another image from the end was like a monster truck rally.
Cool.
Yeah. I was in Mario Kart World in my mind on one of the big monster trucks at Bowser's Castle for that.
I was going for some like Woodstock 99 energy. There was definitely, I think it was important to get some of that out there. Yeah. Monster truck, I feel like falls into the same. But I like that it's Nintendo monster trucks. That's great.
Do you know Brett Dennen?
Yeah.
I could hear some like vocal,
cool.
like a vulnerability of like I'm hurting or I'm hurtable right now, and I'm letting you into that.
Yeah. I'm contemplating it as we speak.
Yeah. It felt like I was in this stadium on the end, and then when we go to Side of the Hill, I was like, oh, now I'm in his bedroom, and this is like dreamy and intimate.
Yeah, I very much, my way of like combating the TikTokification of the world and our like waning attention spans was to keep changing the vibe and the room. Yeah. And to like jump to another place. Even within songs, there are a bunch of songs that have different movements where it's like, oh, okay, all of a sudden we're here. I actually, to use another Nintendo reference, I used the analogy a lot of like, I wanted to feel like we went down a warp tube. Yeah. And like ended up in the water world now, or whatever. Right? Yes. That's not the water world noise. I know anybody out there. I sang it.
Yeah. I think that's what with the little spiders on the Mario 64. I think that's a water world.
Okay, I'll take it.
Water cave maybe.
Yeah. I wanted it to feel like, okay, we're jumping around. So we can still stay in this like 38 whatever minute album, but it's not static. It's constantly moving. That again feels emblematic of the world that we live in. I don't even have the attention span anymore, and I'm like somebody who likes to read books and listen to long records and do it the long way, and like you do have to like adapt to the world as it is. So I wanted to think of like, okay, I've got there's like a 5-minute song on there, but it's like a bunch of 45-second songs, and then when you get done with that 5-minute song, you're in an entirely different world, and that should hopefully keep your intention or attention alive.
How did you choose album art and packaging? All the stuff about presentation, like what was your goal with that?
I worked with an incredible photographer and graphic designer, Jaden Becker, who took all the photos and then did the album design as well. The process was sending them the music and having some conversations and letting them do their thing. And it took a little bit of exploration because they did all of the single art as well as the full album art. So it took a little bit of exploration at the front. But then once we found it, I was like, okay, just replicate it, you know, or like keep playing with it. But here's the world that we've built. And again, so collage was a really important part of it. Having something that felt really sweet and organic. A lot of the photos are of me like with roses or in a field or, like felt very like organic and authentic and natural. And then there's like weird digital things happening around it that felt like they were kind of stacking on top and making things feel a little bit of that like uncanny valley feeling of like, what's wrong here? I can't really tell.
What was your motivation or strategy for releasing the singles that you did before the album? And then like how much of the album comes only once the full thing is released?
I think Spotify screws with us as artists because they really want us to keep putting out singles.
Yeah.
And they incentivize you to continue to put out singles. And your listenership is in peril if you aren't putting out music on a regular basis. And so I felt the need to continually milk this thing for as much as I could. And it totally made me lose sight of the fact that it was an album. And so I think it does artists a great disservice. That's not to say that there isn't a place for singles. And I think there's a great place for like teasing an album of giving somebody a sense of what the album's going to be like, getting them excited for it. But yeah, I put out 6 singles out of 10 songs. I almost put out a 7th, but then I had to just pump the brakes on myself and say like, no. Let there be something left.
Yeah.
Don't feed the beast too much. Stick to your artistic integrity.
What was the schedule and roughly like how long was it between them? If you can walk me through like how are you feeling about this project when you put out the first one? How far along was it?
I put out the first single last year just because I was like, I need to get going. I needed to my biggest goal for this album was to let this album be the start of my career where I don't ever stop releasing music.
Okay.
Versus I've made an album in the past and then I kind of went away. And that's the traditional method of like, you go have an album cycle and then you tour it and then you come, then you sit in darkness for a little while and then you come back when you're ready. I made an album. The pandemic happened. There is no touring cycle. And then we arrive at the end of all of this in a TikTok world. And so now it was like, okay, make this music and never stop. Obviously, there are fallow periods that are like required of being an artist or just being a person. But I just wanted to get stuff out, keep it rolling. My mentality was like, okay, let's put out a couple singles and learn as you go. And so I put out one. 5 weeks later, I put out another one. 5 or 6 weeks later, I put out another one. Took my time, regrouped. The holidays came around. Came back in, the beginning of the year and was like, okay, let's put out another 3. There was no real like strategy other than let's keep putting out music and learning from it and adjusting as we go. And I guess there was a thought of like which songs I felt like would resonate the most easily with people because they were only getting that one little song rather than the full thing. But that it screwed with my head because I didn't like hearing the songs just as songs. I remember hearing the early singles from Bon Iver's 22 A Million and not liking them and being really afraid that, oh crap, he made a bummer. I was like, I loved his first 2 albums dearly. And then I hear the first 2 singles. It was, I've been sleeping at a stable, mate. It was exactly. It was Over Soon and 33 God. I was like, what are these? These are weird as hell. And I don't get it. Exactly. And then I heard the whole album and I was like, oh, this is my favorite album ever. And the whole thing is incredible. And this, like, the reason that this sounds like this is because that's where it needs to go in the album and it's part of the flow. So I was very conscious of that. And like in my own experience of listening to it as well, I was like, I don't like this song that much. But then I heard that song on the album and I was like, I don't know, I love that song. What am I talking about?
What are your thoughts on having other vocalists? You're the only person singing on these albums, right?
My friends Beck Pete and Ashley Mayetta sing some background vocals on Did You Think It'd Be Easy, but came in all the way at the end of the process because specifically I was like, I need my friends on this album.
Yeah.
Like this is a song that like has like this gang vocal feel to it, and I need, like, it would be silly to not do this with my friends. It wouldn't be genuine. In general, I don't know. I feel like the things that I'm singing and saying are pretty like from my voice. But I really also love at the same time that there are a couple songs on the album that feel like they're songbook songs, like Someday and What If This Is Good Enough in particular felt like songs that could just be in the real book or something like that. And anyone can sing them and anyone can do them. This is just my version of them. So I would love if you want to cover those songs, by all means, take them, do your thing with them. But I didn't feel like I needed to be in conversation with another person or have like another verse sung by another person that was speaking their side of the story. Yeah. All right. I guess that's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Rob. Thank you to Costa and Operation Podcast and Rita House. This was cool. Let's do more of these.
Thank you, David.
Cheers.